Welcome to Talking Tactics. This week, we want to look a bit at how the war in Ukraine is influencing global geopolitics and the arms market. And there's probably no better example than India. It's the world's most populous country and the fifth largest economy. It's a country on the rise, a global player with a large sphere of influence. Also, it's a nuclear power. Now, India and the Soviet Union, later Russia, have maintained a stable economic relationship for decades. Bilateral trade between the two countries has steadily grown. In 2023, it surpassed a record-breaking $50 billion. The cornerstone of the Indo-Russian economic relationship is energy, with India relying heavily on Russian oil and gas. Another fundamental aspect of the Indo-Russian relationship is the defense sector. India has been one of the largest clients of Soviet and Russian military hardware since the 1960s. According to the Stockholm International Peace Research Institute, Russia has supplied 65% of India's weapons purchases, totaling to more than $60 billion during the last 2 decades. India's military inventory boasts a substantial amount of Soviet and Russian weaponry. This includes famous platforms such as the MiG series of fighter jets, Su-30s, T-72 and T-90 tanks, and naval vessels like the Admiral Gorshkov aircraft carrier, which is now called INS Vikramaditya. But it's not just about old weapons sold to Russia. Both countries have agreed on joint ventures to produce Russian technology in India, such as the BrahMos cruise missile, the Su-30 MK multi-role fighter, or the production of the AK-203 assault rifle. Prime Minister Modi in 2014 announced the Make in India initiative, which was a call to reduce dependency on foreign production. Additionally, India has procured advanced systems such as the S-400 air defense system. The fact that Russia has sold S-400s to only a few other countries underlines how strong these ties are, although there were certain complications surrounding the delivery of these systems in the past year. That brings us to the war in Ukraine. New Delhi has maintained a neutral stance on Russia's invasion of Ukraine, urging both sides to end the war. But the country indirectly supported Russia at the UN by abstaining from various votes against Russia. For example, against a draft resolution condemning Russia's annexation of 4 regions of Ukraine. India has not implemented any sanctions and did not commit to end purchases of Russian oil when the G7 governments introduced a price cap in early December 22. But for the Russian defense industry and its relationship to big clients like India, invading Ukraine was a disaster, especially in regard to marketing their weapons. Yes, Russia has caused huge amounts of destruction in Ukraine and is holding on to conquered territory, but with quantity, not with quality. For the flagships of the Russian army, the past years didn't exactly give the impression that these were reliable quality products. The unstoppable Kinjal hypersonic missile was intercepted, the T-14 Armata battle tank was supposedly pulled out of Ukraine due to low performance, and an M2 Bradley infantry fighting vehicle recently destroyed a T-90 main battle tank in battle. That's pretty incredible considering what both vehicles were actually built for. So, following not only a gloomy performance record of Russian weapons on the battlefield, but also huge logistical issues due to the high demand of spare parts, India has begun to turn its back on its longtime partner, cancelling various defense contracts. Here are a few. April 2022, the Indian Air Force cancelled plans to purchase 48 Mi-17 V5 helicopters from Russia. May 22, Indian Air Force officials announced the cancellation of plans to upgrade its inventory of 85 Russian Su-30 MKI fighters due to logistical problems arising from the war in Ukraine. On the 10th of May, the Chief of Staff of the Indian Army acknowledged logistics issues with certain types of ammunition and spare parts from Ukraine and Russia that were critical to the Indian Army's readiness. Later that May, the government announced that it was suspending negotiations to acquire 10 Russian Ka-31 airborne early warning and control helicopters for its navy. In July, India abandoned negotiations to purchase 200 Russian Ka-226T helicopters. Also in July, an Indian Air Force MiG-21 crashed during a training flight, killing 2 pilots. That was the 6th Indian MiG-21 crash in 18 months. Shortly after the incident, officials announced that the Indian Air Force would retire all of its current inventory of MiG-21s by 2025. India had been negotiating with Russia to acquire more MiG-29s and Su-30s before the July crash, but an agreement was not reached because of the ongoing war in Ukraine. Finally, in August 2022, Russia's Rubin Design Bureau, a submarine designer and builder, withdrew from a proposal to construct 6 submarines for the Indian Navy, stating that it was too unrealistic. Again, most probably due to the war in Ukraine. Now, it's important to remember that India's approach to its relationship with Russia must be understood within the context of its broader foreign policy goals, particularly its pursuit of strategic autonomy. While India values its partnership with Russia, it also seeks to diversify its defense acquisitions and partnerships with other countries, including the United States, Israel, and France. This balancing act reflects India's desire to maintain flexibility in its foreign policy while leveraging its relationships for mutual benefit. The real question is, who will fill this void that India leaves behind by walking away from the Russian weapons industry? And what does that mean for the reshaping of the political sphere? Will India turn more towards the West? The future will tell. That's it for this week. By the way, it was our 50th episode of Talking Tactics, so thanks for staying with us and thanks for your support. Have a good day and see you next week.